ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. A commentary on Surah Hujurat has been our ongoing topic. Tonight is lecture number 10. Alhamdulillah, with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have been discussing the 49th chapter of the Quran, a chapter that is filled with moral and ethical principle-based values for us to apply today. As I mentioned to you several times in the past 2 weeks now almost, is the idea that the Quran has to be taken as a living miracle for us today, not a book that was revealed only for those who were there during the revelation. But in fact, it is that one miracle, the only miracle that stands out against all miracles of the prophets, that transcends generations. Meaning every generation can claim, rightfully so, that the Quran is relevant to them. We are no different. And that's why this discussion on the various principles and values of Surah Hujurat becomes very, very important. We have reached, alhamdulillah, verse number 13 in the chapter. And yesterday we had a very important discussion on su'edan, on ghiba, on backbiting, on spying, on jasusi, as they say. That these three are very much interrelated. We talked about the fact that dhann in Arabic means conjecture, or to have someone who is pessimistic or a negative way of thinking actually breeds many other sins, one of them being backbiting. We talked about that yesterday. We move forward today to verse number 13, and another crucial verse. It is that the only verse in all of this entire Surah Hujurat that actually addresses all of mankind. And let me read the verse first, inshallah, and then we'll move forward. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha, وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارِفُوا إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ خَبِيرٌ. That, O people, we have created you all male and female, and have made you nations and tribes. We have created you from male and female, and have made you into nations and tribes, so you may recognize each other. The most honorable among you in the sight of Allah is the most pious. Allah is all-knowing and all-aware. The first point I want to make, there's several to make tonight. The first point I want to make is that this is, like I said, addressed to all of mankind. Usually in the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses a very specific group to address, it means it's a very specific message for that group alone. And when usually Mufassirin have said that when they say Ya Bani Adama, Ya Ayyuhan Nas, O mankind, O sons of Adam, meaning inclusive of all of humanity. In there's atheists, there's God-fearing, there's black, there's white, there's male, female. It is a overall message of humanity, of universality, of universal principles that can be applied regardless of what you believe in. This is not about the mu'mineen, not about the kuffar, not about the Ahl Kitab. This is if you are a human being. So first thing is that we know that this message from this verse is universal. This is not just for the believers, or not even for those who are disbelievers. This is for everybody. That's the first point. The second point is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Very interesting, makes it a point to let us know that He has made us into nations and tribes. He's the one that placed this tribalism inside of us. Okay? This need now to belong to people who are like us. If that means that they speak like us, they talk like us, they are the same color as us, they come from the same country as us, I don't know, same gender, same age, whatever the case may be, we are individuals who are attracted to people like us. Whatever like us means, even people who are like thinkers or think like us, feel like us, are funny like us, are athletic like us. They also like sports. I also like, I don't know, documentaries. Whatever the case may be, when we find someone that I can belong to, relate to, connect with, then that is that innate tribalism this verse is talking about in the Quran. And it's fitri for us to gravitate towards those people that I believe are like us. I remember my father marhum, I come from a very typical immigrant family, as many of you know, a typical Pakistani family. My father marhum migrated from Karachi to Toronto in 1973, I believe. And that was, that was a long time ago. I was born here in Toronto, and he used to tell me that back then there weren't, there's maybe one center, and that was a little bit far from us. So we would literally go through the phone book looking for any sort of a name that might resemble a South Asian Desi Muslim name, and call them and say, "But hey, is there any sort of iftari happening? Is there a Muharram program? Is there a Nazar program?" So he would just kind of reach out to anybody and say, "Look, if it doesn't matter where you're from or what your belief are, or at that moment, during those days, it didn't matter if you were Hyderabadi or you're Punjabi or you were this or that. Now, unfortunately, it's everything. But back then, it didn't matter. If you were slightly like us, that was good enough. Like my mom would tell me that, we would walk in the grocery stores back then, and now if we see someone back then, if we saw someone who's brown, maybe someone who's a hijabi, we would, just kind of meet them like they were long lost relatives. Right? Now, of course, they're everywhere. But that's that tribalism that Allah talks about in this verse. Now, just to make sure that He doesn't allow this tribalism to seek into racism and prejudice, He reminds us that, look, where you're from, the language you speak, the color you are, the amount of money you have, means nothing to Allah. If you want any sort of fadilat and distinction, it is due to your taqwa and your taqwa alone. Back then, in that Arab tribal mentality, when of course, if one tribe was known to be the stronger of the many other tribes, then they would have, distinction for nothing but for a last name. Nothing but because they had riches. Nothing because they belonged to a certain part in Mecca, the south, the north, the east, the west, doesn't matter. Right? That was back then. For now, Allah to proclaim that the only thing that makes you distinct is your piety and taqwa was revolutionary back then. But who knew that even today in 2020 now, I'm sitting in front of you in 2020 in the early month of May, the month of Ramadan, and still this tribalism has to, this has to be applied today, and still be reminded that the color of your skin doesn't give you privilege. Where you're from doesn't give you privilege. Sorry. Right? Because you're Urdu speaking, or because you are, I don't know, a certain color, or because you're this or you're that, does not make you someone who's higher. If there's any akram, if there's any merit, if there's any honor amongst you in the law, it's what? It's atqakum. It's piety and taqwa. But still we see this idea that, people still believe that, based on our last name, hum log Sayyid log hain, Sadat log hain. That's good for you, you're Sadat. Excellent. You were born into a Sayyid family, fine. Do you resemble that of the Prophet's family? Are you representing the Prophet's family? Many people, they're Sayyidani, they're Sayyid, but their work actually embarrasses the Ahlelbayt in the Prophet's family. I'm sorry. Nobody in your grave will ask you what your last name is. Nobody will ask you, aap log kis khandan se hain, in the grave. No one's going to ask you that question. Sorry. They'll ask you what? What did you do? إِنَّ الْمَوْتَ الَّذِي تَفِرُّونَ مِنْهُ فَإِنَّهُ مُلَاقِيكُمْ ثُمَّ تَرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ فَيُنَبِّئَكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. That death, what is death? Death that you farar from, that you run from, that you flee from, will one day meet you. مُلَاقِيكُمْ. will take you at the time of death and take you back to the alim and the shahid, the knower and the witness. And he will tell you, فَيُنَبِّئَكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ, what you did in this world, what you did in this world. Not who you are in this world. Not what part of Karachi you're from, not what part of Pakistan you're from. I'm sorry, right? No one's going to ask you your Shajara Nama in the grave. What, tell me about your Dada and your Pardada, with all due respect. They will ask me, what did you do in this world? What is your amal? Hadith says that when a mayyat moves towards the qabristan, three things accompany the mayyat. Ahluhu, wa maluhu, wa amaluhu. The mayyat's family, the mayyat's wealth, the mayyat's amal. The Prophet says 2 of them come back from the cemetery qabristan, 1 remains. The ahl and the mal, the money and the family come back from the qabristan, the amal remain with the mayyat. We have stories of Nabi Nuh's son and Nabi Lut's wife and all sorts of individuals who belong to a very pure lineage, but didn't amount to anything. Right? So this is not about this idea that Allah is saying, look, I've placed you in tribes so you can feel like you're higher than others because your skin tone is a little bit lighter than the person in front of you. Okay? Allah is saying, yes, I placed you in tribes for a reason. I'll tell you what that reason is in a moment. But more importantly, the one that gives honor in the eyes of Allah is the taqwa and the piety. That's why the Prophet had non-Arabs as one of the most important Sahabis, Salman al-Farsi. He had an African slave as the first Mu'adhin of Islam, Bilal al-Habashi. Right? He had many individuals who were considered to be the low point of society as his right hand, as his close ashab sir, as those close individuals of in his circle of companions. Right? So this very much in this era today of racism, of the Me Too movement, of white privilege, of God knows what else, right? Of the Black Lives Matter movement, of everything. All of this now points to this one very powerful verse. Surah Hujurat, verse number 13. Now, I don't want to go down that route. What I do want to use this verse to talk about the family life inside of our homes, especially now that we are in seclusion, in isolation, and we are with our family literally 24/7. Okay. One aspect of tarbiyat awlad, raising pious children, is that you want to always remind ourselves, I'll remind myself as well, I have 3 small kids, that this tribalism to belong to something is innate. Okay, everybody has it inside of them. I remember, it's a story I often give. I remember, my first few months in Qom, when I first arrived, the first thing they do is they teach you Farsi. Okay? They take you into a school of linguistics and they teach you language. Farsi, how to read, how to write, how to speak fluently. Within 6-7 months, you're fluent in Farsi. And they purposely put you in classes during language school with people who are not from your country. Okay, so I remember my very first language class in Iran was maybe one of 12 of us, I think. Is my mic working? Yes, it is. One of 12 of us, and all from 12 different countries. So I had a Pakistani beside me, I had a Lebanese brother, someone from Azerbaijan, a Chinese brother, I remember, someone from Chile, someone from, Europe, France, didn't know a word of English, he only knew French. All these things. And then after the first class was over, there's a 10-minute break. And downstairs in the school, there's a little bit of a convenience store, like a little tea stand. They had biscuits, they had cakes, they had tea. So the whole school would go down in that one level, right? It wasn't a very big school, a couple of hundred of us. But it was interesting to note that the moment that class was over, we went downstairs. You could watch. People would look for people from their country and gravitate towards them. So within 5 minutes of the break, all the Pakistanis and Indians were in one corner, all the Arabs were in one corner, us English guys from America and Canada were on one corner, the Chinese guys were there, everything, right? The African brothers were all there. And literally, it's exactly what they were trying to avoid, because then you'll end up speaking your own language and you won't pick up Farsi. But that is what? It's innate. It's fitri, as they say. Allah says, وَجَعَلْنَاكُم مِّن شُعُوبٍ وَقَبَائِلَ. We placed you, right? We placed you in those tribes and nations. Meaning what? Why? Because we have this sense of belonging. Now, you have a child who's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. The first tribe that he wants to belong to, that she wants to belong to, right, is the family unit. Is the family unit. That's their tribe. That's the tribe that they want to belong to, right? So, their Eid, for example, is when the whole family sits around and has food. Like it's incredible. The young ones in my house, the ones who are 6 and 4 years old, they're not fasting, obviously. They are probably the most excited about iftar than the ones who are actually fasting inside the home, because it's a family event. There's ronak, people are getting dishes out, people are warming up some tea, people are warming up some of the iftari, set the table, let's all sit, we all sit down, a little dua, a little fatiha, blah, we begin, and it's just, you should see their faces, they're so excited. They just ate 2 hours ago, but this is their tribe. And they feel like, okay, this is where I belong, this is my Eid, this is my comfort zone. Okay? And the longer we can keep our children believing in the tribe at home, the longer they'll avoid looking for that tribal mentality outside the home. Okay. The moment that a child feels like I don't belong in this tribe anymore, he or she is going to leave the house and look for a tribe elsewhere. To the point where sometimes it even blocks the wisdom of the youth. They end up now gravitating towards a circle of influence, a circle of friends. We had a session over the weekend on circle of influence, right? They gravitate towards that circle where they commit crimes, they commit sin, they're not the best of people, and they know that. They'll flat out tell me, Maulana, I know they're not the best of people, but they make me feel like I'm their brother. I feel like I belong to them. Like they accept me. They don't shush me when I talk. They don't quiet me when I try to say something. Right? They acknowledge me. Okay? Now, how do we ensure that our child stays belonging to the tribe at home? The first thing is acknowledgement. Acknowledgement, acknowledgement, acknowledgement. What do I mean by that? That means that we have to acknowledge the existence of the child at home. And I ask those immigrant parents, because I know that Melbourne is still a first-generation community, right? Especially PSV. As far as I remember, maybe now I think some of the youth are getting married, and inshallah they'll start to have kids, and we'll have another generation. But right now, the majority of the parents listening to me are immigrant parents from back home. Okay. Now they're not used to having parents that would make them feel like they belong, and accept them, and acknowledge them. But I'm not worried about that akhlaq. I'm worried about adopting the akhlaq of the Holy Prophet and Islam, where in the deen we know that one of the sunnat and the siddahs of Rasulullah is this idea, is this fact that he would be the first one to greet. So the first thing that we could do to help acknowledge the individual inside the home is to greet them at least. It's to greet them at least. When they come downstairs and during the morning, Assalamu alaikum, how was your day? How was your day? Now sometimes, now of course, now everyone's at home, but when things go back to normal, the kids will come home from school, you can at least stop and ask them, I know there are some families, mashallah, who the father spends a good 15, 20 minutes after school with each child finding out how the day was, what were the challenges, what was the best part of the day, blah, blah, blah. That makes the child feel like, what, I belong. They actually worry about me. They're actually concerned about me. They're invested in my life. If a person says, I've been in my room for 3 hours, nobody even checks up if I'm alive, if I'm dead, am I okay, this and that. No, din bhar jo hai wo kamre mein baitha hai, din bhar. Well, Baba, did you go and check if he's okay? Main kyun jaun? Why should I go? If he wants to come, he can come downstairs. That ghurur has to be gone in this day and age. I'm sorry, the parents now have to be a little bit soft. The first thing that we have inside of our innate need is to feel like, what? To feel acknowledged. Imagine now, example I give oftentimes, imagine now we have a program at PSV now, and someone walks into the mosque, into the masjid, and then you are sitting with a circle of your friends, having tea, let's say with Maulana Syed Asad, all of you are there. salam, 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 and he passes over you. Doesn't even acknowledge you. The next guy comes, salam, qibla, kya hal hai, sab khairat, alhamdulillah, salam, salam, passes over you. Third, fourth guy does it. After a while, it's like, am I invisible? Do you not see me? Why are you not acknowledging me? Like, why are you not even greeting me? Right? The moment that the child feels invisible inside the home, then they realize that I no longer belong to this tribe. And that innate feeling goes unfulfilled, and she goes out searching. Who will adopt me as their tribe? Who? And that's when we've lost control of our kids. And we get into the outside world. We want to make sure at all times, and I know it's very hard, especially when the child's 14, 15, 17, those rebellious years where they see you as the annoying parent. That's fine, but you still have to do your level best. That's why Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, says that the third stage of tarbiyat, when the child is 15 to 21, he is a wazir, she's a wazir. She advises you. Now it's somewhat of a friendship to both of you. You're still the parent, right? You're still that authority figure. But now, it's no longer that you're, do that. You have to now kind of befriend them. And be soft with them. And ask for their opinion. So, one of the practical steps that ulama of akhlaq tell us, for example, let's say you and your spouse, you and your wife or you and your husband plan a vacation to Toronto, inshallah. And you come to Asad's house. I would love any of you, please, more than welcome. Anytime you're in town, please look me up, get my number, call me. Please join us for a meal. I would love to have anyone from my PSV family at my house. And you decide, okay, the dates, everything. So what do you do now? You have to have a meeting with your wife. Dates, airline, how long, budgeting, etc., etc. The ulama say when you have that initial meeting to plan that trip, include your 16, 17, 15, 18-year-old, who's in that bracket that Imam Sadiq says. He's a wazir. Now it's you, your spouse, and your 15-year-old. The other ones that are younger than 15 don't get invited to this special meeting. You're now an adult, right? You're now somebody who can give us that advice. What do you think? When's the best time to go to Toronto? Oh, I heard, mashallah, May and June is the best weather. It is. May, June, July, the best weather to come in this city. Okay, great. So you assign tasks now. Better you are in charge of finding a good flight from here until Toronto. Minimize to one stop. Let's see if we can get something within, this budget. Those are small things, but you're making it an inclusive process. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you at the age of 15 a boy is baligh. At the age of 9 she's baligha. And when they're baligha, they are what? They are a mukallif. A mukallif means that they're responsible for their actions. They will be held accountable at the age of 15. You and I say, Ya Rabbi, bachcha hai Maulana. 15 saal ka bachcha hai, usko kya malum hai? No, Allah says he's not a bachcha. He's a responsible. He's a mukallif. We have to give him that ahsas-e-zimmadari, that hiss-e-musuliyat, and that happens inside the home. The moment the child feels like I still belong inside this tribe of mine, he or she won't go anywhere else. He'll feel accepted inside the home, and it's enough. If that means that we bend and we change a little bit as parents, and I'm sorry, that's going to have to happen. But the moments that, because I'll tell you what ends up happening, and I mentioned this before to all of you, as the years go on for a child, and they reach that age of late teens, early 20s, and they start to make these horrible decisions, like addiction to drugs, or let's say, for example, God forbid, some sort of crime they commit, or I don't know, just irresponsible decisions, can't hold a job, dropped out of school, etc., etc. You find out that sometimes, they literally are doing it because they're just trying to punish somebody, or because they've always been told that they will amount to nothing, or they were never ever heard inside the home. The moment that, especially sometimes the younger ones, bachare, the moment that they open their mouth, tum chup raho bas, just shh, be quiet. No one's asking you. Tum abhi bachche ho, tum bas suno, okay? No one's asking you. Baon ke samne jo hai, I'm 12 years old, I can't speak, I don't understand. Literally, I have youth telling me, Maulana, my entire life I would open my mouth and I would be quieted, if not by my elder sibling, then by my father, then by my mother, and I felt invisible. Imagine feeling invisible to the ones that you love. Invisible. Am I even here? There were youth in my community, in our community, that will sit there and tell me, if Maulana, if I go missing tomorrow, I wouldn't even be missed. If I'm in my room dead for hours, nobody would even notice. I mean, it's dramatic, it's a little bit drastic, I understand, but there's a hidden message there. So we have to pick up on these things. Is there a detachment happening from me and my child? If so, let's not put the onus on the child to come and fix it. Wo chota hai, he should come to me. Bhai, ye bade chote phelan jo hai aap, leave it now. We're trying to save a generation. We're trying to save this child from the clutches of this satanic society right now. It all goes back to the power of tribalism. The power of tribalism. Allah says we did that. We have that tribal mentality inside of you. Let's foster it properly inside the homes. Acknowledge your child. Make them feel visible. Show emotion. When they tell a story, listen to them. The Holy Prophet, when somebody would speak to him, he would turn his entire body and be completely in front of the person talking. Sometimes, someone's talking to me here, I'm looking here, turn around and look at him. Let him look. Once I'm locked in my eyes, then everything you're saying means everything to me. That's body language I can send as a listener. That yes, what you're saying is I completely agree. That's point number one I want to make. Point number two, if I have time, I do have about 5-10 minutes. Point number two is this idea and this concept that we cannot be individuals who are stuck on the outer appearance of somebody, especially in spouse selection. Please, I cannot stress this enough. I talked about this before. I'll say it again, that we are not to use criteria that is almost near impossible, that will put our child in a very difficult spot. Sab kuch hai, he's got everything. He's got piety, he's got a good family, he's educated, he's got a great job, excellent akhlaq, good work ethic. You know he's going to make his family proud, but he's from Africa, Maulana. He's from India. Hum log Pakistani log hain. Kaise karenge shadi? Even within Pakistan, they're from Punjab, Maulana. Hum log jo hain Karachi wale hain yaar. कैसे करेंगे पंजाबी से कैसे शादी करेंगे? What do you mean by that? Or हम लोग पंजाबी हैं, they're let's say Khoja, or they're Khoja and I'm Indian, or they're Indian. This stuff is nowhere in the deen. This is why yes, you gravitate towards your Punjabi boys at the center. You gravitate towards your Karachi, your Karachites inside the center. Sure. But when it comes time for you to choose a spouse for your child, or at least approve a spouse for your child, it cannot be anything but taqwa. The difference between person A and person B should not be height or color of the eyes or where they're from. It should be taqwa alone. It's a fight that right now our kids are fighting on the front lines. I've seen horror stories. This brother marries outside the community, outside the religion, let's say, for example. Okay? It's devastating for the family. And I go and I see the child. He says to me, Maulana, 5 years ago, I told him I wanted to marry this sister from my community, Maulana. From my community. A muhajjaba, hijabi sister that comes to the center. Her family and my family are close. When I mentioned it to them, they had 1,000 excuses. Nahi, wo log, nahi, beta. वहाँ नहीं करेंगे शादी तुम्हारी. Why? No, there's 1,000 excuses. So I got sick. I waited, and then I took things into my own hands. When Islam has already laid out the criteria for you, why are you adding more things that's causing stress inside of your home? I've seen, blood get married. Cousins get married, and it ends up being a nasty divorce, which ruins a family. Right? So my point is that this mentality of tribalism in Surah Hujurat verse number 13 we're talking about tonight. Right away, the moment that Allah says, وَجَعَلْنَاكُم مِّن شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ, we placed you in nations and tribes, He says, إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ, that the only one factor, criteria that makes you any better than anybody else is piety and piety alone. Not the color of your skin. We're watching right now the world. We're watching how sometimes in America things are being treated. We're watching this blatant racism right now. This Islamophobia all over the world. We're watching how certain groups are being targeted for no apparent reason but the color of their skin, but what they're wearing on their head, sometimes their last name. Right? And so this verse speaks volumes for us today. Let's do our part to ensure that while we believe in the fitri need to belong to a tribalism, a tribe, to have that identity, absolutely, but not to the point where we now end up judging others as well. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, he used this beautiful tribalism mentality, which was very rampant in the Arabs, for the benefit of the deen. They were, as jahil as they were, as chaotic as their life was, there were some things about the Arabs back then that was very commendable and respectful. They were loyal. They had they were brave. They would fight for their cause. They had great memory. They had a great memory. They would memorize things very easily. They wrote poetry, some of them. And one of them is that they were very loyal to their tribe. They were known by their tribe. If somebody disrespected the tribe or a member of the tribe, it was as if they respected them themselves. They would rise with the tribe, they would fall with the tribe. Everything was the tribe. And that loyalty sometimes blinds you. That loyalty sometimes empowers you to make you feel like, you know what, I have a cause to defend. I have an identity. I'm known as the brothers, as my fellow tribesmen. The Holy Prophet tapped into that resource. Said, look, this tribalism, to a certain extent, is very, very noble. Now, instead of you being loyal to your tribe, even if they do things that are chaotic, turn that loyalty towards the deen and be loyal to religion. Be loyal to the deen. Such that if a fellow Muslim now is being disrespected, it's almost as if I'm being disrespected. Right? If we see right now what's happening in Yemen or in Palestine or in Iraq or in Syria or in Nigeria or in other places of the world right now, our fellow Muslims are being killed for no apparent reason, denied human resources, oppression and injustice on a daily basis. We should never say, oh, well, you know, those are people who are from Yemen, you know, those are Syrians, you know. No. That tribalism should expand out to those who are the Ahl Iman and the Ahl Islam as well. And yes, our Sunni brothers also are included in that. We are an individual who promote the idea of unity amongst the sects of Islam. Those who are worthy of unity. I'm not talking about those individuals who want to kill us and who actually believe that Jannat is wajib now that they have destroyed one of us. No, those people are not worthy of unity. The point I'm trying to make is that please let's end this idea. Sometimes literally centers, places of worship are being opened up simply based on tribalism, not based on piety. The very deen that Allah now places this verse to uphold, they're using that same word of Allah to fragment the community. Like this is too much. It's too much. So in recap of tonight's discussion now, because tomorrow inshallah we have the judgment of Imam Mujtaba alayhi salam, but tonight it's important that we look at this verse in a quick recap. Number one is that yes, Allah says that this fitri need to belong comes from me. Verse 13 is a prime example of that. Number two is that yes, I place you nations and tribes so you could have identity, be proud of who you are. But the judgment only happens, the honor only happens from the ones who are more pious than the others. Not color of skin, not language you speak, not gender. This whole talk about gender equality, this whole talk about, me and my jism, for example. Right? My jism, my marzi, for example, in Pakistan. All these things stem from the fact that we believe, for example, that because I'm a male, khud ba khud, now I'm higher than a woman. Or because I am white, khud ba khud, I'm higher than, let's say, someone who's colored. Or because, let's say, I belong to, I don't know, a certain area in Karachi, I'm higher than someone who belongs in that part. And all these things have no place in the deen. The deen looks at piety. Piety has no rang, piety has no zaban, piety has no gender. Piety is your action. No one's going to ask you what your gender is, the color of your skin in their grave, your last name in the grave, your khandan, your shajara, your family tree, nothing. They'll ask you, what did you bring in terms of your a'mal from this world? That's what you will either elevate or you'll sink based on your amal or your lack of amal. The third and the final point I want to make is the idea of children. Understand, as the child gets older, it's vital that we do everything in our power to make them feel like they are still a vital part of the tribe of this family. And this time of this pandemic, isolation now, and being quarantined, is a prime time for us to strengthen that notion. If that means that you have one program or one night where you do something that they want to do, if that means that you do your best to befriend them, whatever the case may be, this is now the time for us to strengthen our tribes at home, such that when things go back to normal, they don't want anyone else outside the home. They're having too much fun belonging to the tribe at home that they have been for months and months now in isolation. The verse ends by saying Allah is Khabir and Alim. He knows and He's knowledgeable. He knows the struggle. He knows exactly what you're doing. Meaning what? I am fully aware of what's happening. Meaning I am with you. Do your level best. Try as hard as you can. Inshallah, the rest of the hidayat belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept our qaleel efforts, to forgive our sins, accept our amal, allow our families to bond together during this isolation, such that when the Imam comes, we are that family that stands beside him during his mission. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.